taking the challenge. Now then, go take a seat and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Please do your best to complete your objective, second mate.
Now then.
I love that I'm pretty sure it's Igus's VA that gives us this challenge. It's so big. Oh! We must have gotten to like rank 3 proficiency or something since the last time I did this. I didn't realize that we hadn't completed it yet.
Oh.
You've done it again! I didn't realize we were gonna finish it right here. Are there any other guaranteed rank ups besides Broshida and Mishima? Just the weird ones. The twins, because they don't take up time, and then the story confidants, I think. Other than that, I think it's just the sun and the moon, which is Yoshida and Mishima. Congrats on completing this challenge. Since you managed to crush the gravity burger, I present you the first mate badge. Hey. And to the burger baron who defeated this challenge, we present to you our world famous Big Bang Burger on the house. 5 Big Bang Burgers. Dude, 5 burgers after you just ate a giant burger is an awful prize. Like, obviously, we can use it as an item at any point in the game, but if you went to an actual fast food place, like, you better be eating all 5 of those burgers today, because you know they're not going to be good, like, warmed up the next day if they're fast food burgers. Like, there's no shot.
Please come again.
Got one more challenge to do. I believe we need rank 4 on knowledge, guts, and proficiency to complete it, which we have rank 4 on nothing so far. You defeated the gravity burger this time. I am pretty great. I'm built different. This should give us some charm. If I'm not mistaken. Guts, knowledge. Give me all those points. 2 charm. All right, not a rank up, which is unfortunate. Is it everything but kindness? It's +2 to everything but kindness, yeah.
Mr. Akechi's coming on.
It's Akechi! Oh, he's so cool.
Ain't that the guy from yesterday?
Dude, they need to, like, put up some railing to stop some of these chicks from trying to tackle Akechi mid-production. Did you hear those cheers?
Cutting back from commercial. 7, 6, 5 seconds till start. 4, 3.
You went past second 4 and 3 when you said seconds till start. You're already on, like, 1 second till.
And now, on to the hottest meet and greet segment of our show. After his last appearance was so well received, we decided to bring back this fine gentleman today. It's the high school detective, Goro Akechi.
Hello there.
Thank you for taking the time to join us today, Akechi-kun. Your popularity is stunning.
Even I found it to be quite a surprise. It is a bit embarrassing, though.
Moving along, we've been told there's a case on your mind right now. Care to share, Detective?
Ah, yes. That would be the scandal involving the master artist Madarame.
There it is! All of this Phantom Thief excitement has caught your attention too, Akechi-kun. Allow me to be blunt for just a second. What do you think of these justice-oriented Phantom Thieves?
If they truly are heroes of justice, I sincerely hope they exist.
Oh, so you don't deny the possibility that they're real?
I may not seem like it, but I sometimes wish that Santa Claus actually existed. Although, if he did, I'd have to arrest him for breaking and entering.
Ha 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 ha. That is the most scripted, like, how do you do fellow joke givers joke you could possibly make on a talk show. How, like, I guarantee you Akechi, like, the night before this was like, I need some kind of, like, lame joke that people will laugh at even though it's not that funny, and he, like, wrote this down and rehearsed it. Cue laugh track.
But hypothetically speaking, if these Phantom Thieves are real, I believe they should be tried in a court of law.
And put in prison for life. Maybe even executed.
That's quite the statement. Are they committing crimes? Some people even say that the thieves are actually helping their victims abandon their evil ways.
You did just refer to them as victims, though.
What the artist Madarame did truly was an unforgivable crime. However, they're taking the law into their own hands by judging him. It is far from justice. More importantly, you should never forcefully change a person's heart.
You have a point. These people are calling themselves the Phantom Thieves, after all. Amazing as always, Akechi-kun. I could listen to you for days. You have the most radiant charisma.
The game doesn't show it, but if you look at the statistic files of all the other characters, like the 5 statistics that Joker has, Akechi's charisma stat is actually at 6. And when you get it to rank 6, it's called Goro Akechi. That's the name of that level of charisma.
I have to say, though, I would be embarrassed if it turns out these Phantom Thieves don't exist. If that were the case, I'd summarize it into a report as a school project.
Now then, let's try asking some students the same age as Akechi-kun about the Phantom Thieves.
I think that's Aigis' voice actress again.
First, please press your button now if you think the Phantom Thieves exist.
We all get our own buttons at this event? That's so sick!
Of course they do.
About 30% or so. What are your thoughts, Akechi-kun?
I'm a bit surprised. That's higher than I was expecting. I'd love to hear some more detailed opinions on the Phantom Thieves' actions.
I mean, 30% seems kind of reasonable when it's anonymous, and the 30% is a number of 17 people.
All right, let's try asking this student here.
Whatever you ask, Aigis.
Hypothetically speaking, what are your thoughts on these Phantom Thieves if they were real?
I didn't hit the button on my thing. I don't think they're real. I mean, they are necessary. At least in the plot of this game.
Ah, I wasn't expecting that.
This completely goes against the opinion you had about them being tried by law, Akechi-kun.
Indeed. It's rather intriguing to hear such a strong acknowledgement. In that case, there's one more question I'd like to ask. If someone close to you, for example, your friend next to you, if his heart suddenly changed, wouldn't you think it was the work of the Phantom Thieves?
This is a real catch-22. I don't know if I'm using that turn of phrase right. Because, like, obviously, being a Phantom Thief, I know that we only target criminals. However, well, then again, do we really only target criminals now that I think about it? There, like, when you look at the Mementos requests, there are some people that we change the heart of that aren't necessarily criminals, right? Like, is the cat lady that we're gonna change the heart of, is she breaking any laws? Maybe there's some kind of animal cruelty law that she's breaking that I'm unaware of. But, the guy who's bullying people, the one who's, like, doing blackmail, I guess, like, blackmailing, that's straight up illegal. But is bullying really, like, is it a crime, per se? It's bad. Like, you shouldn't bully, and maybe, like, your school tells you not to or whatever. But, like, you're not gonna get, you're not, at least, maybe in Japan you do, and maybe I just don't know the laws as precisely in America as I should. Maybe you can be tried in America. I'd be surprised, though. But, like, if you're bullying someone at school, you can't, like, get arrested over that, not unless you, like, physically harm them. Like, if you hit someone or, like, beat someone up, then, like, yeah, that's against the law. But, like, bullying in general, like, making fun of people or shenanigans or whatever, like, that's, to my knowledge, that's, like, it's frowned upon. It's bad. You could, like, get called to the principal's office and get in trouble, but it's not, you're not a criminal. It's not against the law, as far as I'm aware. So, like, from what I remember, and maybe there are some other Mementos requests that give a better view of this than what I recall throughout the game, because I can't remember them off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure there are a couple of hearts that the Phantom Thieves change that aren't strictly like they are criminals breaking the law. It's more so like, this person is a little bit of a dick, and so we're gonna change their heart. Which kind of makes me not want to say they only target criminals, because I might straight up be lying in that case. If Ryuji had a change of heart, I wouldn't think that it was the Phantom Thieves specifically, but it's got to be someone who has access to the metaverse. But also, you can't change Ryuji's heart because he has a persona, which means that shouldn't be possible, really. What would you think, Akechi? I mean, I know what Akechi would think. Akechi would think it was the Phantom Thieves. Like, because that just makes sense. Anyone who is not a Phantom Thief would assume someone's heart being drastically changed was the work of a Phantom Thief. Like, what other conclusion could you come to? There's only two possibilities. One, the person randomly just 180'd on their personality of their own volition, or, which is unlikely in most cases, or B, it was a Phantom Thief. What would you think, Akechi?
Ah, throwing the question back at me. Well, this is my opinion on the topic. Whether the thieves' actions are good or not, I feel there is a more important issue at hand.
What do you mean?
The matter of how they change people's hearts. If they honestly possess that ability, it could be used for more than extracting confessions. It could be that what seem to be ordinary crimes are actually being perpetrated by these methods.
You know, you're absolutely right.
Oh, please don't misunderstand. This is all purely hypothetical.
This is actually something that I'm really interested in with Persona 5 that, to my recollection, from what I remember, they don't really tackle later in the game. It almost comes up right here, but they don't really go that deep into it in the future from what I remember. But something I was always really interested in was from the concept, and I don't think they really could have tackled this in the game without taking the game a completely different way, which could have been good, could have been bad, who knows. But it is like, when Akechi talks about right here, where he's like, what if Ryuji, he's talking about Ryuji when he says your friend next to you, like, what if the Phantom Thieves changed his heart or whatever? I really expected this part of the game to go into sort of the morality of, like, what gives them the right to decide who should have their hearts changed, and is it okay for them to change their hearts, etc., etc., even if they are doing something bad, because there's an explicit amount of free will that the Phantom Thieves are kind of stealing away from people when they do this, right? Like, when you change someone's heart, you are intrinsically ripping out part of their free will, because you're changing them fundamentally. They no longer have the option, like the free will, to continue to be a scumbag. Which, on one hand, you're like, well, good. Should people be allowed to be a scumbag? But, like, you know, what I'm trying to get at is, it's hard, right? Because on one hand, it's like, is it bad to stop someone from being bad, from being evil, mean, rude? And you can kind of see it, like, obviously with the big, like, palace bosses in the game, there's almost no question, right? Because the palace people that you go up against are, by and large, scumbags, other than two exceptions, which we'll get to later in the game. But all of the truly evil people you go after in the game are straight up scumbags. They are very, very bad people. Kamoshida, Madarame, we'll see Kaneshiro soon, and so on. So it's kind of hard to argue, like, well, these people are, like, abusing people ridiculously so, getting people to commit suicide, like, etc., etc. So, like, they have to be stopped somehow, some way, right? But when you look at the Mementos requests especially, some of the people are like, yeah, they're not good people. They're mean, some of them are dicks, they're rude, etc. Like, they're bad to some degree, because otherwise their desires wouldn't be distorted, you wouldn't be able to change their hearts. But even then, you're taking away their free will to an extent by changing their heart, which is a really, really interesting thing to delve into, because the Phantom Thieves throughout the game are almost always, I think they are always, from the player's perspective, they're always painted as being in the right. And the majority of the time they are in the right. But at the same time, there's a big moral quandary in being like, hey, you know, we don't like kill people or anything, but also we literally take away their ability to have free will, to an extent at least, which for some people might be worse than just dying, you know? Some people might just be like, because when Kamoshida's heart was changed, he wanted to kill himself until An called him out. So, like, for some people, it would be like, you know, taking away free will, fate worse than death, etc., etc. So, which Jet mentioned in chat, that was why An wanted him to not kill himself, is because it was a fate worse than death for him, which is, you know, that's fair. But, like, that's something they never really touch on in the game that always really interested me, is the Phantom Thieves are always presented being in the right, and most of the time they are in the right. Some of this, like, because, you know, they're stopping the bad guys and all of that. Like, I'm not saying the Phantom Thieves are intrinsically wrong in what they do, because, you know, when people like Kamoshida and Madarame are being scum, you have to stop them somehow, and if changing their hearts is the way to do that, you do that. But there is also, like, you know, I don't think that the Phantom Thieves have all that much of, like, a quotation marks moral high ground when you take into account, like, yeah, they don't murder the people, but they do just rip away their free will entirely. Like, that's, you know, that's something that's really interesting, I think, that's never really tackled in the game overall. I'd say 3 of them aren't scumbags. I know the third one you're talking about, they don't, I don't want to go into spoilers, but there's a reason I don't consider that third person you're talking about in what I was just talking about. Unless you're talking about a specific Mementos request character that I just remembered. But if you're talking about a palace ruler, I don't consider that third person you're talking about, which I'm not going to go into right now because it would be heavy spoilers for later in the game.
It is only if people who can use such a power truly exist. Either way, though, this cannot be ignored. The existence of the Phantom Thieves would be nothing but a threat to our everyday lives.
Also, Akechi is, like, he's incredibly correct here. The ability for someone to change your heart to such a degree, especially from the perspective of people who don't understand how it's done, because, like, we know that we only do it to people who are distorted. We have to have a unanimous decision between, at minimum, 4 people in a group. Later on in the game, it becomes a maximum of, like, 8 or 9 people in the group all have to agree to do it, and we can't take the hearts of just anyone. They have to have some level of distorted desires. So, you know, if someone's just being a totally nice and normal person, we can't take their heart and change them, because none of their desires are distorted to an extent. But for people outside of that knowledge who just see, like, these people have the ability to change people's cognition and how they act and whatnot, that is horrifying. That is, like, an incredibly scary thing to exist. That would be terrifying to know that that could happen to anyone at any time.
To be honest, I'm already working alongside the police to help sort out this matter.
I would say it's less taking away free will and, hey, you have a conscience now. I mean, that at the end, that's where it kind of comes down to opinion, but you cannot deny that stealing someone's heart in this game affects their free will to an extent. Because before you take their heart, they are freely choosing to be bad people, to do things that are wrong. But once you steal their hearts, they are then forced to, which means against their free will, to feel guilty about that and turn away from being bad and all that. Is that, like, you know, if you're doing it to bad people, is that, like, I'm okay with doing that to an extent? Or are you more on the side of, like, taking away free will to any extent is not okay? You know? So it becomes a moral quandary that some people will think differently about based on your opinions, which is totally fair. You know, the metaverse and all that doesn't actually exist, so it's not something we actually have to worry about in real life. But when you're playing games like this that, like, you know, Persona 5 has, like, a commentary on society as a whole, obviously, with what it's trying to get across with its story and all, it's a really interesting thing to talk about.